So today we are making a perfect peach Manhattan. It is currently on the menu at a mano. It is the middle of August here, so it is peak peach season. But what we're going to start off is a little bit of bourbon infused with peaches. And we're calling it a perfect peach Manhattan because it has two different kinds of vermouth. We have sweet and dry vermouth. And that's usually the requirements to make a drink perfect. And then we have a little bit of peach puree. Make that in-house. Just take a couple peaches, peel them down, buzz them up with some water and a little bit of cinnamon. A good little tip, especially if you're at the farmer's market. I was there this week on Saturday, and we got a half bushel of peaches for $5 because they had peach seconds and they weren't fun shaped, but we're cutting them up and pureeing them anyway, and they're delicious. So far we put in peach puree, peach infused bourbon, a little bit of lemon juice, and then we have sweet and dry vermouth going in to our shaker here.
Is that like a half ounce?
Yep, so we have 2 ounces of bourbon, we have a 1/4 ounce of lemon juice, a half ounce of sweet, a half ounce of dry vermouth, and a half ounce of peach puree. And then we're making 2 cocktails, so 4 dashes of just some peach bitters. And I just think it kind of balances it out. Even regular Angostura bitters would probably do the job. So then we're just going to give it a quick shake. Hopefully I don't mess this up too bad. And you're just kind of breaking up the ice. It'll water down the cocktail a little bit, but it chills it really nice and makes everything kind of homogenized and smooth together, almost like you're making an emulsion when you're cooking like a vinaigrette or something like that. And then we just have our little bar strainer here. Pour it into some rocks glasses over ice. Let's see how my pour skills are. Top them off. And then we got some Luxardo cherries here. These are cherries marinated in a bit of alcohol, and they're very sweet. You'll normally see them in a Manhattan or an old fashioned. And then we just got a couple of fresh peach slices as a garnish. And there you go. It's a perfect peach Manhattan.
B-roll shots.
All right.
Sweet.
So we have our margarita pizza here. So we have our pizza dough, a really basic pizza sauce, fresh mozzarella cheese, and extra virgin olive oil. First things first, our pizza dough is a mixture of flour, oil, sugar, water, and salt, and a little bit of yeast. We let it go in the cooler for 2-3 days. It really helps mellow out those glutens and relax, make it an easy pizza dough to stretch and a nice pizza dough to eat. We use Italian 00 flour, so you get a little bit of that softer chew than you would like a high gluten flour that you use in like a New York style pizza dough. We just like it a little bit better. We go for more of similar to like a Neapolitan. It's a little bit different. I'm not going to call it Neapolitan. We don't use the right ingredients. So this is our fresh pizza dough here. We're just coating it in a little bit of flour, not too much, but just enough so it doesn't stick to your hands. And throw a little extra down. It'll just help you stretch. So what we have here is our sauce. So this is, we use Jersey tomatoes. I like Jersey tomatoes because one, they're usually packaged with less water, so when we buzz up the tomatoes, it's not like a super watery pizza sauce. And 2, you can only grow tomatoes in Jersey in the summer, and that's when tomatoes are best. So if you get California tomatoes, you might get a winter tomato that's not quite as good. It just gets a little tough. So they're usually at their peak season when you get them, and they usually have less water in them. So I think they're just kind of better all the way around. So we're just going to start stretching out our pizza dough. You can kind of see we have the semblance of the beginning of a crust on the outside, and you really just want to leave that alone. That's going to rise. If you pat it down too much, you're going to hurt the rise. So all I'm doing here is I have a little bit of a gap in my hands, and I'm just going to start to pull it very soft. And we do a pretty thin pizza at the restaurant, but we don't want to go too crazy. So we have a very small pizza here. And then what I like to do is just put my hands there, and I keep my fingers here so we can keep the crust all nice, and we just try not to touch the crust, and we just slowly pull. Just slowly pulling, slowly making it bigger. You don't have to go fast. If you go too fast, you can rip it. It's just a nice, easy movement. I'm not pushing down very hard at all. If you push down too hard, we use a pretty wet dough, so it might stick to the table. The flour helps that somewhat, but can't guarantee that it's not going to. So if you see, we're getting thinner and thinner. And pizzas, you know, you want it to be circle. Don't have to be crazy about it. A little rustic pizza is nice, especially if you're making it yourself. So we got a nice stretched out pizza. I just like to double check, make it a little bit bigger. Don't want to be too chintzy. And if you go a little bit too thick, and if you just keep turning like this, so I'm moving it with this hand and pulling with this hand, we get a nice even pizza, and you don't have any like thick spots. So we're thin all the way around, thick around the crust, and I'm just gonna move it over to the peel now, because it'll just be a little bit easier to build onto the peel and not have to worry about trying to take it up or put it on the peel when it's got all that heavy wet sauce. So in our sauce here is the Jersey tomatoes that we talked about, fresh basil, olive oil, and a pretty healthy amount of salt. And we're just gonna scatter it around, kind of do whatever you want here. We're gonna run our spoon through and just get a nice little thing. So from the middle, you're just gonna go out and you just wanna coat everything up to the crust. Go there. And you don't really want too many thick pieces of sauce. You don't want any raw dough showing. That's where you get bubbles and it'll burn up. The sauce actually makes a nice protective layer for the dough, and it keeps it nice and moist while you're cooking, so you get the crispy crust and then you get a little bit of softness, but you'll get the crisp from the bottom of the pizza oven. And then this is just some fresh mozzarella cheese, and we're just gonna tear it. And I like a good amount of cheese on my pizza, but it is what it is. You want to tear them all relatively the same size. It's important because if you tear some too small, it'll melt and the cheese will break before the pizza dough is cooked. Or if it's too big, you'll have a big chunk of cheese that's not melted. So keep them all relatively the same size. You don't have to go crazy, but it's just a good thing to have. So we're all set here. We're just going to hit it with a little bit of olive oil, and again, that'll help. You'll get it on there. It'll help, again, protect your dough, and it'll just add another layer to be cooked on top. Check it. We'll make sure our pizza slides. Looks like it's going to slide right off into the oven, and we're just going to walk it on over to the oven. All right, so our pizza's been in the oven for 3-4 minutes. You get a nice black crust from the hot flame that we have. Our cheese is nice and melted. It holds its shape pretty well. It doesn't fall down. It's got a nice crust structure to it. So all we're gonna do is finish it off with some fun stuff. I got some basil from my garden here that I picked this morning. I'm just gonna tear a whole bunch over the top. It just adds a little bit of freshness. There's a good amount of basil in the sauce, but once you get cooked basil, it tastes a little different than fresh basil. So I like to throw some fresh basil, and then you also have the cooked basil from the sauce, which is nice. A little bit more extra virgin olive oil, and then I just like to throw a little bit on the crust for some shine, and also to make the cheese stick when I make cheese crust, because I'm a monster. All right, and then we just got a little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano, and I'm just gonna cover the whole thing. So I throw some on the pizza, and then I'm just gonna go around the crust because it makes the crust a little bit better. I tell my pizza guy to do this all the time, and he gets really mad at me because of the pain in the balls, but it's so good. All right, but there you go. And then you got a little bit of crust on your pizza. And then just for shits and gigs, one more basil leaf. And then we cut it. And cut it in however many people you got. So there's 2 of us, so I'm gonna cut it directly in half, and we're gonna eat it like that. All right, so that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Come down to Downtown Syracuse if you'd like to try a margarita pizza or a perfect peach Manhattan while supplies last through September. Thank you to Gerharz for having me down to come make some pizza and hang out, and it was a lot of fun, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much.